looks like I don't have to wait long. It looks like it is live and we have people here. Welcome as you come in. I appreciate you coming in and listening for the next few minutes at least. Today is the 30th of August 2022. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome as you come in. And no, I haven't been on here for a while. I've really slowed down on this a lot for a lot of reasons. If you're following me on Twitter, you'll see why that's the case. I discuss that there quite frequently. Hello, everybody, as you come in. Nice to see you. Tuesday nights, I kind of expect that I'm going to possibly do one of these, and tonight there's enough going on, I thought I'd better. Again, I'm not sure when the next time might be. I've got a lot going on personally, so I'm taking care of a lot of those things. I hope you're getting ready as well. After we talk tonight, I think you'll see that they're really serious and what they want to do is about at the door. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. Everything 5x5, maybe you can let me know if it's the case. Great, I appreciate that. G-Man Neode, appreciate that. And hello, everyone. I wish I could say hi to all of you, but that's kind of hard to do, mention you by name. I'll open up by saying I'm having a little liquid refreshment tonight. This is Pabst. I don't know if you've studied beers, but there are a lot of good ones. The Egyptians, they were apparently the first ones to start the beer culture. At least that's the way I understand it. And of course, then there's that little saying, that beer, helping ugly people have sex for the last 4,000 years. So here we are, right? And actually, Pabst, the reason why Pabst is one of my favorites, because actually the ingredients in Pabst are actually probably the most natural, and there's nothing compared to a lot of the other beers that can hurt you. Or that are nasty for you. The ingredients in Pabst are actually pretty safe. If you look that up on the web, and I don't think it's just something that Pabst has put out there. I think it has been studied out pretty well. That this is probably the safest beer. I guess I could put it that way that you could drink. So here's to you, everybody. Alrighty, well, let's get into it. In the description box below are two links to some Twitter posts, and you might want to look at them. One is, they're both about Joey Biden, his little speech that he made in front of some high school. Well, it was I guess it was in an auditorium, and they couldn't fill it up, so they put everybody in a little area in the back, so it looks like it was filled up, but it wasn't. But he makes all these crazy statements, and I thought that those were worthy of me saying something about them tonight. I didn't put them all up. There are only two in there. One from his Twitter account, which is being discussed, and another from, I believe it's either Colonel Rob Manus or from Sean Davis. I'm not sure which, but at any rate, where he says that they'll use F-15s against us. That we'll need F-15s to fight them. We're not going to be able to do it with our guns. I could get into a lot of details about that. It seems like to me that the Taliban did pretty well without having all the advanced weapons that the United States had. As a matter of fact, we gave them a whole bunch of those advanced weapons. I'm not sure they have people that can use them, but the point is that we spent nearly 20 years in a battle in Afghanistan, and we were beaten by guys with AK-47s and basic rocket launchers, not airplanes, not F-15s, etc., etc. Because that was the plan all along. Again, I'm going to make this statement here tonight, and I'm going to hope that you understand what I'm telling you. It's not about winning these wars. It's not even about just wars. It's not even about creating a situation where people can live in liberty, life, pursue, the basic thing that we say in the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No, that's not it at all. It's to drain you of your wealth in these endless wars, perpetual wars, so that we become the victims in the end, and then use our good name to do all of this destruction around the world, at the same time destroying your lives. If you don't realize that that's what's happening, that's exactly what's happening, and I've talked about it before. They're draining our treasure, and they're draining our blood, and they're putting us in the point where right now we're facing a war with Russia. We're already involved in that, whether you understand it or not, and we're losing on economic fronts, on the battlefield, everywhere. And now they want to start, as we heard today, well, actually, the last few days, we've actually sent Taiwan money. Biden sent them military aid. Well, that's direct war against China. Okay, so that's going to start. China might start it up any day now. We're not going to do well, ladies and gentlemen. One of Britain's ships broke down as it left port. The biggest aircraft carrier of the British Navy. We can't fuel. We've got problems here, and how are we going to sustain, an unjust war, first of all, when we can't even take care of our energy needs here at home? And it's going to be a rough winter. I hope all of you understand that what we see happening in Europe, there's going to be a lot of that here. People are here already can't pay their power bills. You're going to have to figure out how you're going to heat yourself, cook your food, and take your baths this winter. Okay, because they're shutting us down. It's all about the destruction of the West, particularly the United States. That's what this is about. It's not about Russia, although the neocons hate Russia because, they're you'd have to study the history, but basically the neocons were thrown out of, they were Trotskyites, and they were thrown out of Russia, and they've been upset about that ever since it happened. But at any rate, so we're being really stupid right now. We're training our troops about, to be understanding, and to be concerned about other people's feelings, rather than teaching them how to fight on the battlefield. And it's all by design, ladies and gentlemen, okay? This isn't a mistake. They know exactly what they're doing. And I said that this is coming for a long. I've said for a long time that this is coming. I saw how the military was being used to try to force societal change by doing these changes in the military, so that the larger society would have to adopt it. This has been going on since at least the '60s, and now it's at a crescendo. And we're destroying our military. They're throwing out the people that are good because they won't take the procedure. We already know now, of course, that all of these people are coming out that pushed it for so long, saying, well, we made a mistake. Oh, this thing is not good, et cetera, et cetera. And they're still not pulling back from it. Not even Trump. I might as well talk about Trump for a minute. You all know, probably, and I don't have it in the description box below, but Alex Jones apparently gave an ultimatum to Trump. I was really surprised that he did it. But there are some other things going on in the background here that are not good. The Last Refuge on Twitter has given some really good insights into this. He and I have bashed heads a couple times, or I should say myself and they, because apparently it's a group. We've bashed heads sometime, but people thinking are going to do that. And I actually appreciate the conservative treehouse. The Last Refuge is what they're known as. But at any rate, he pointed out that the big move now is to DeSantis. I'm not sure that's bad or good. Okay, I don't think it makes any difference at all, because our political system in the United States is totally at odds with honesty, integrity, truth, and everything right now. We've invaded other countries based upon how bad things are here right now. At least use those as a pretense. I'll take another sip of that beer. It's pretty good. Hope you're having a good night. By the way, I did have a shot of Jack Daniels before this. Gentleman Jack, by the way. Because I just can't believe how this is going right now. I just can't believe it. We have nobody up there. Trump's denying. I didn't finish that story, did I? Sorry, you know how I get. I pull in all these other things. So, AJ called out Trump And he apparently got a message back, I guess, yesterday from the Trump team, and apparently Trump told him, "Look, I'm standing behind this thing. You're going to stop pushing me to try it." I'm paraphrasing. You're going to stop pushing me to say that this is bad. It's not. It's the best thing we've ever done, and I'm standing behind it. So Trump has shown his colors, which I have said I said a year ago that Trump would betray us again. Prima facie, it's happening. Especially for the kids. And I can't get into that too much here because of the stupid ass people there at YouTube. But at any rate. So Trump came back and said, "No, I'm standing behind it despite everything you say. Don't send me all these people that have all this data. I'm not going to listen to it because it's a great thing. I did it. I'm the father of the vaccine." All right. Now I bashed on Trump enough. He's no savior. He is not out of the picture yet. A lot of his base is falling away from him. This last little thing that I just talked about is going to affect it even more. But he's got something else up his sleeve. He is in bed with some very evil people. Of course, Biden is too. We're going to get to that in a minute. But as I said, when he went into Walter Reed back in 2019 or late 2019, I guess it was, or late 2020, October of 2020, something, not that he didn't anticipate that, but he was given some sort of a promise there. There had been the situation with the Las Vegas shooting, which I think was something, and I know people are going to say, right, don't say this, yeah, especially people, that are listening to me who I have associations with on Twitter, some of the retired officers and people like that. They're going to say, don't talk about that, that's ridiculous. No, it isn't. Okay, he has statues in his house for the worship of some really bad gods, quote unquote. Okay, and the fact of the matter is I think that whole thing in Las Vegas was actually for him. It was a sacrifice that he was willing, that he made of his people to show his um, coordination, his agreements with the evil in the world. And then we have the situation, of course, the red flag laws, the bump stock ban, which, by the way, Biden is now, talking about banning assault weapons. And they just banned, there was a thing that you could buy, and I don't really understand this. I didn't look at it, but apparently there's a lower receiver group that you could buy for AR-15s that could change it, I guess, into a 2 or 3 shot deal. I'm not certain what it was, but the point was it was legal at one time. And then what they do is they make it illegal now, and they're going and bothering people about it. Or if you buy more than one gun, they're coming by your house to see if you've actually got it rather than buying it for somebody else. The straw man deals, straw man purchases. Hey, how come in the 30s, actually the 20s, they had to have a constitutional amendment to do a prohibition, and then had to have a 2/3 states reverse it in order to change it back? And now these regulatory agencies can do it without any oversight. Oh man, we are in bad shape. So at any rate, I'm jumping around here a lot, but I think you understand that this is all serious business. So Trump set the precedent on the bump stock bans and the red flag laws, and now Biden says one of the things in the description box below, right, that he's going to ban assault weapons. And we've known that. Now, what is an assault weapon? Well, first of all, we don't have assault weapons, the citizens, unless they're licensed to have the fully automatic or the select fire, they call it. Most of us have sporting rifles with high capacity magazines. That's all they are. They just look bad. They really aren't military weapons. But it's all to disarm the American people so that we can't stand against what is happening. Okay, and Biden said that today too. It's one in the description box there. It says if you're going to defend our country against the government, that's, he doesn't say it this way, but it's basically it, against the tyranny we're proposing. For instance, the 87,000 IRS agents that are coming to steal your substance. Remember in the Declaration of Independence, one of the things it says, well, the king, one of the things he's done is he sent out these myriads of officers to steal our substance. We're in far worse shape right now than we were in 1776. At any rate, so they come after people with these additions to their rifles, basically, saying that they're now illegal when they bought them legally to begin with. No oversight by Congress, or Congress just winks and says no big deal. And I heard today that the Republican Party, the GOP, says we're not going to talk about any more gun restrictions. We're not going to do that. Well, unfortunately, GOP, you're always a day late and a dollar short. How are you going to stop this? You're not going to be able to. It's going to have to be the governors of the states, who are also pussies, I might add, except for a couple of them. And I'm not even sure Ron DeSantis is the great man that everybody thinks he is. But regardless of that, what happened today was things have moved further along. They're starting these wars. They're cutting off your energy. They're cutting off your food. How many food storage places, food processing places have gone up? Another one went up, and I think it was Colorado today. Coronado, Colorado, I think is where it was, a chicken processing plant. These things, oh, you're at, really? All these are going up just by coincidence? No, they're starting at Bundy Ranch, and all of those things that were happening with the ranchers back in 2014, where the BLM was coming in and shutting them down and stealing their land and shutting down the cattle business. They're stealing your food. They're shutting off your food supply. This is siege warfare, and your government leaders are responsible for it. They're going along with it. Klaus Schwab said it. What is he paying these people? What has he been promising them? Who's the devil in the details? That all of these world leaders are going along with it. Even Putin, I might add, he did go along with the not so much the WEF economic things, but he did go along to some extent with the predominant extent procedure these days. Well, it's a good way to keep track of your people. You put this stuff in them, and gee, yeah, you can track them without having to have a chip, which is what I said when they started using the swabs back a few years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So those are the same thing. They're doing the same thing with those that they do with the injections, and that's turned out to be true. Let's swallow this. So, following Trump's lead, Biden is taking it many, many steps further. We have ATF coming to you without warrants, saying that they want to look at your personal property. The FBI has been out there gathering information on you illegally against the Fourth Amendment. I don't even want to talk about what they've been doing to Trump. Obviously, I don't like that. Whether I like Trump or not, what the FBI did there and the Department of Justice did there is absolutely disgusting, disgraceful, criminal, and even possibly treasonous. So I stand against them based on principle, not because I like Trump. But at any rate, so we have all of this going on. Biden's said also to basically say that cash is going to be gone in December. That's basically what he's saying. So how are we going to manage this? How are we going to do this? Well, I'm not sure. But I do know that we can't stay in this system, that we have to separate ourselves from it. And I was going to call this a little different title tonight. A lot of people think we can fight this. And I was going to say, basically, we can't usurp their evil. We have to depart from it. We can't change it. We have to get away from it. We have to depart from it. We can't usurp their evil. We have to leave their evil. It's part of the division process. That's the spiritual side of it. Does that mean that we just turn over and let them kill us? No, you have a right to self-defense. So let's get back on the other subject. Biden says that he's going to ban assault weapons. That's what he's going to do. Well, we heard Beto O'Rourke said that before, right? Yeah, we're going to come take your AR-15, right? Yeah. Never mind, it's your personal property, they'll do all this and then we'll fight it out in the courts later after you've lost your property. And if you fight back, you're a domestic extremist, domestic violent extremist, basically a terrorist under the definitions, which I warned about in the 1980s and 1990s, that far back, that's where this was going. That they would turn all of this against the American people. And it's happening. So, where we are right now is, as I just said, Biden says he's going to go after the assault weapons. They're not assault weapons. They're sporting rifles with semi-automatic capability and high magazine capacity, which is actually important. He doesn't know it because he doesn't know that a shotgun is harder to control than an AR-15. He doesn't know that a 9mm doesn't blow out lungs out of the body. And I guess he said something else in this little speech that he gave that, an AR-15 bullet travels 5 times faster than any other gun. What an ass wipe. He doesn't know anything. His ignorance just flows out of him. Who is telling him this bullshit? I won't get into ballistics here tonight. It's not important, but I'm practically a freaking expert on it. I've been around it for a long time. And he doesn't know anything. I doubt that he's ever fired a gun. All right. So he said that about your semi-automatic weapons. He wants to take them, and they're making all the processes are going through right now to be able for them to justify it, for them to be able to actually do it based on former precedent and other things. They're going to do it, okay? And if you don't turn it in, you're going to get visited. If you don't turn it in, you're going to lose some of your government pay or your ability to buy food or something. They're going to work this out so that you're going to suffer if you don't go along with their program. And our states are not being gutsy enough to stand up against this, at least not yet. That's the first thing. And the second thing, as I said, and Beto O'Rourke said this, Eric Swalwell, I use that little name for him. And now Biden says, you're not going to be able to stand up against our F-15s. I wonder what happened to the F-35s. That's probably out of his range. He probably doesn't know what the hell they are. The point is, he's threatening military action against you because you're exercising your constitutional, your God-given rights that are supposed to be protected by the Constitution. That, ladies and gentlemen, is impeachable, as John Cardillo and Colonel Rob Maness said, and it's criminal and it's treasonous. We have a government that's treasonous working against us. Look at what the FBI and the DOJ has been doing lately. I can talk about the Whitmer kidnapping, fednapping, as Julie Kelly says. All of these things are happening. The wicked, the evil is being revealed, and there's no reason not to see it. And that's really what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be the watchmen that see this evil, that witness it. And yes, you do have a right to defend yourselves. You do. I don't give a damn if the person that comes to you and threatens your rights and your life and your liberty has a badge or not. Or some order from the president. Who's going to stand up and say that order is illegal and unconstitutional and it's in violation of our God-given rights? Where are the governors speaking up about this right now? We have cowards. Trump's a coward. Biden doesn't know what he's doing. But you see what's happening behind the scenes. This is coming from people like Obama, people like Klaus Schwab, people like the owners of BlackRock, et cetera, et cetera. It's those people that are doing this, Gates, et cetera. And Biden just says what he's told to say. Sometimes he slips up and he goes too far, or he doesn't go far enough. But he basically declared war on anybody who doesn't submit to his political agenda, his political ideology. He declared war on them, not just today, but several times in the past. And they are serious about this, ladies and gentlemen. They're getting ready to kick this off. They're getting ready to kick it off. What do we do? Well, now we're going to talk about a little spiritual business with beer and an ounce of Jack Daniels, a shot of Jack Daniels at me. Gentleman Jack. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I think right now I will. Any of you who have read my writings on the first century and on Israelite culture and tradition, not Israeli, not Jewish, Israelite culture and tradition, will know that I've made a big deal about the firstborn son, the firstborn breaker of the matrix, how that is really what being a virgin means, that you have a firstborn breaker of the matrix, you have a firstborn. Okay? Let me ask a question. We're often told that this world is Satan's world. This world belongs to Satan, to evil. And why would God allow that? And if God allowed evil to come into the Garden of Eden and cause us to fall, what makes you think that he's going to save you now? Tough question, isn't it? Oh, we could get into a big philosophical and scriptural discussion about the saving grace of God and Jesus Christ and all that. And I'm not profaning these things. I'm pointing out that you're missing something. And that is that God isn't coming to save you. He's testing you. He's putting you in a position where it's a catch-22, and you've got to decide which way you're going to go. So I said that that there's a thing about the firstborn, the son, that's the heir to the kingdom. Did I not? I've talked about that for a long time. We're not going to talk about all the aspects of Eve. I've done a little bit of that in the past. We're just going to take it that Eve was this woman, okay? And she bore a firstborn son who becomes the heir. Who was that, everybody? Who was Eve's firstborn son that would become the heir? If we follow what the crimson thread is and the fact that the firstborn son is the heir to everything, who was Eve's firstborn son? Anybody know? Have we lost it here? Sometimes they shut down my chat because they don't like what I say, so they shut it down. It looks like it may have shut it down again already. So I'll just tell you. Her firstborn son was Cain, at least according to Genesis. Well, Cain was a mischievous sort of guy, and he was a murderer and a liar. There were some adjustments in the scriptures later when there were some arguments about the right of the firstborn, the heir. But you can't get around the fact that in this case, Cain received a curse, but it says nothing about the loss of this being his kingdom. And who's following this heir? Is his way of doing things. The liar and murderer from the beginning. The master Mahan. Some of you might understand that title. What do we have here? We have a world full of evil heirs who are taking their heirship and destroying the creation. And you might ask yourself why. Well, we can talk about that philosophically again, like I said a few minutes ago. Where's God? Isn't He going to save you? Well, there are some promises there, but it's mostly on you to see what you will do so that you will see where you stand. So, what am I saying? You can't bow down to these people, ladies and gentlemen. You can't bow down to them. Whether or not they're actual serpents, that might be metaphorical, and I gave a video about that some time ago, about the serpents, and that the whole idea of having a child without your male counterpart is what the serpents do, especially the squamates, the lizards, the certain lizards and snakes, one of them being the Komodo dragon. I talked about that. And so whether these things in the scriptures are metaphors for that type of individual or not, whether they really are somehow serpent seed, doesn't matter. The lesson is still the same. You know them by their fruits. And the fruits of all the leaders, at least up here across the northern hemisphere, and of course many in the southern hemisphere as well, are evil to the core. How did they get there? Because this is their inheritance. But that doesn't mean that we bow to them, because they're going to lose this. Just like Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of porridge, even so, the Bidens, the Trumps, the Gates, the Windsors, the Putins, the Xi Jinpings have sold their birthright for porridge. So who gets it? Those who stand upon the principles of righteousness. They will lose their inheritance. They've got it right now, but they're going to lose it. And who's going to do that? You think Jesus is going to come out of the sky and take care of it? Well, that's not what the scriptures say. That reading in the New Testament is incorrect. If you believe the Bible, the way it works is through you. The Spirit of God will be poured out upon all flesh, upon all peoples. Some will accept it, some will reject it. Your young men shall see visions, your old men shall dream dreams, and your sons and daughters will prophesy, and the law of God will be written in their hearts and minds, and they will do the action. Because that's how it's worked in history. Look back. I'm not going to get into a whole deal here, but if you're looking for this thing out of the sky, that's not the way it works. That's metaphor. A lot of people don't want to hear that. God already, He's already there. This is your school. This is your testing ground. What are you going to do? We didn't protect the babies when they were being murdered. And as things stand right now, and that includes the procedure, not just the way to get rid of a child for convenience sake, but also this entire procedure that's going on now, which is harming a lot of us, especially the children. The lack of food is a political issue. Famine is a political issue most of the time. And in this case right now, that's exactly what it is. It has nothing to do with the inability of the earth to provide its fruit. It's because men are controlling it to destroy life. So what are you going to do? you stand on principle, and hopefully you don't get to the point where you have to defend your life and the lives of your loved ones. But I wouldn't bet that that's not going to be the case. I'm being a little surreptitious here because there's some things you can't just say on YouTube. And I could have put a video up on Odyssey and spoken a little more forthrightly, but I felt that this needed to get out tonight to as many as possible. They want this disruption in America. If you're watching the news, they're not telling you what's happening in the Netherlands, in Germany, in France. As a matter of fact, there are those who say that the Yellow Vests are an evil group of people that are fighting government regulations. Well, rightly so, but they don't tell you that. They just say that they're standing up against the government. Dutch farmers, German farmers, French farmers, where they're being told that they can't, that they're producing nitrogen, which is hurting the earth, which is baloney. They're producing CO2, which is hurting the earth, which is baloney. Why did they choose CO2, everybody? To try to get everybody to submit to their edicts saying it's science? Because everything on earth uses CO2 in one way or another. They can't say that they're going to cut off your oxygen, so they had to use something a little more problematic as far as people's intelligence is concerned and knowledge. CO2 sounds bad, carbon dioxide, and yet it's one of the four ingredients, as I've said before, that sustains life on Earth: oxygen, CO2, light, photosynthesis, and water. And they're trying to cut all of those off. They're at war with you. They're not at war with Putin. They're not at war with Xi. They're at war with you. And they're using them to get to you, to take your sustenance, to take your blood, to take your treasure. And now they're saying that they're willing to use the American military, or like they are in Ukraine, some kind of proxy, maybe the UN, maybe some other troops, who knows, to come and take your property illegally, unconstitutionally, so that you will be bare naked to their aggression and to the aggression and criminality of the criminals that will be wildly charging through the streets. Look what's happening in Portland right now. Does anybody know? You seen how they're battling on the streets there? Look what's happening in Baghdad. Boy, we sure screwed up that place, didn't we? Yes, I realize that the Shiites are, there's that contention between the different sects of Islam, the Shiites and the Sunnis, etc. But we set that up. We thought Saddam Hussein was such a bad guy. He understood his culture. But he didn't want to be involved with the American dollar anymore, the American system. And they wanted to go to war. So they blame him for 9/11, right? Yeah. And there's more to it than that. But he knew what it took to keep those people in line. We've merely replaced Saddam Hussein, and we're worse than he ever was. And that's how it works. Ukraine, we set that up. As I've said before, Victoria Nuland, Obama, the CIA, Soros went in there, overturned an election, put in stooge puppets, and then they started warring on the Russian-speaking people in the Donbass in the eastern Ukraine. Putin said, "You're not doing this anymore." I'm not saying Putin's a good guy. I'm not apologizing for him. But it's obvious that what he's doing is taking down the Western world. Whether or not he Is being used to do that or not? That's another issue altogether. The fact is that he's winning the economic war and he's winning the war on the battlefield. We're being judged for our destructive behavior over the last 60 years at a minimum. And I'm not going to name what all those are, but you should know. And now, your government that's actually been your enemy for many decades is now declaring war on you. Biden just did it. And he's got his standing army to do it. All the three-letter agencies that they've been arming for the last, 10 years or so? We weren't ever supposed to have a standing army. So how do they get around that? The three-letter agencies. Oh, those are law enforcement. That's civilian. That's civil law. That's not putting an army on the streets. Oh, yes, it is. It's still the federal government exercising its tyranny. And they're doing it at the behest of some being, because this being has power to force all of these different leaders to do this. A lot of nations have said no. We'll see how that works out. But it's at least coming from somebody who's offering them money and power, be it Gates, be it Schwab, be it the Rothschilds, be it BlackRock, be it the Windsors, be it the Vatican, I don't know. Be it Israel. You know how I feel about Israel. Or if you don't, you should. Those who say they are Jews but are not. That's not saying that Jews are bad. People misunderstand that. Oh, the Jews are the synagogue of Satan. That's not what Jesus was recorded as saying. He said, those who say they are Jews but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. Not the Jews, not the Judahites, but those who usurp that. And at that time and place, it was the Herodians. Okay, we're in trouble. They've declared war on us. They're even going to use the military against us, whether it be the American military or some other proxy mercenaries or whatever. They're going to do it. The three-letter agencies are really where it's going to start, and it's already started. We are seeing farmers losing their land over some stupid little aspect of their filings on their taxes. And I warned about this as early as the late 80s, early 90s, after I got done with the terrorism counteraction course in the Army, where it said that a terrorist, one definition out of dozens, now there are scores of these definitions. One of the definitions, as I explained, was you own a weapon, a firearm, you have 2 weeks supply of food, and you work on your own. You have a 1099, not a W-2. You are, by definition, a terrorist, and they're coming to take you down. They're doing exactly what Stalin did in the Ukraine back in the 40s, 50s. They're doing exactly what Mao did in China. They're doing exactly what every dictator has done, except now it's the technological control of it. It's siege warfare, and you don't even realize it's happening. Oh, California's not going to have any gas-powered cars by 2035. Yet our electrical grid cannot possibly supply energy for everybody having an electric car. It's impossible. There's no way. So what they're really after is they don't want you to have mobility. They don't want you to go see your grandma in the next state. They don't want you to travel to see other peoples and see how they live and have an appreciation for them. That's been a real blessing in the last few years. And they don't like it because you realize that those people there are not really any different from the people there. They can't have that. They've got to have division and hatred. And we succumb to it. It's time to stand up on principle, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to get ugly. This is going to get ugly. Prep, pray, and stay out of the way, but you have every right under God to protect and defend yourself and your loved ones. Just be aware that that could get real nasty. You're not going to be able to do it from inside your home. Go take a course in tactics. You cannot defend your home inside your home. You're going to need your neighbors, and you're going to need a cordoned perimeter, a security perimeter out away from what you're trying to protect. You cannot do it inside your home. Hopefully you'll have the support of your local sheriff. Questionable. It'd be better if you had the support of your governor. Not likely. Not even DeSantis at this point. I could be wrong, but there's some things about him right now that are really questionable. And the conservative treehouse, the last refuge, has been very good at explaining that. But it's here. Well, it looks like my chat is... Well, there we go. Yeah, it's stopped. They apparently cut it off. I've seen them do this before where they cut off my chat. They don't like what I say, so they turn off the chat. I didn't. They did. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for coming. This was an impromptu. It was one of those, I said, do I really want to go on? How I make this excuse. Do I really want to do this? I guess I better. I'm not going to be able to rest if I don't. When I see these things happening, I know that, I was trained to see war and the preliminary work up to it and who the protagonists and the antagonists are, the parties to it, and basically what their objectives are. And ladies and gentlemen, our leaders are at war with us, the people. Look at McConnell. Mitch McConnell. My senator in Wyoming, John Barrasso. A cuck to McConnell. When they get up together, he's usually standing there with Mitch. John Barrasso is. I hope you're listening, Barrasso. And you look admiringly, envyingly to Mitch McConnell with these eyes of adoration and devotion. You're disgusting, John Barrasso. Absolutely disgusting, and you're a coward. Evan McMullin is running against Mike Lee. I don't have a lot to say nice about Mike Lee in Utah. But Evan McMullin is a CIA prick. He's evil to the core. Mike might be after a little, grease my palms. He might be a little off on some things, but he's not an Evan McMullin. You hearing me, McMullin? I know who you are. I know you. You're evil. You've been protecting some people in some very high places. But you know what they're doing, and you do nothing about it. But you're going to run for Senate. Frankly, in my viewpoint, if you've ever worked for an intelligence agency, you should be barred from running for office, an elected office. Period. You can't be trusted. Okay, I've said enough tonight. It's been almost an hour, about 50 minutes. Thanks for coming. If you haven't had Pabst Blue Ribbon lately, try it. It's actually pretty good. It really is, and it's for lack of a better term, it's safer than almost any other beer. All right. Keep your eyes on the horizon, ladies and gentlemen. Your ears to the ground. I used to say this a lot, didn't I? right now, it has a lot of applicability. Keep your situational awareness on high. You won't see them coming. It will be a surprise. It will be unexpected. I mean, you'll know that the general problem is there, but they will choose the time and place. Do all that you can to interrupt that. Pardon me, burped. It's hard to believe that I spent 28 years supposedly defending a country, a nation that was supposed to stand up for its own people. You know, there's a scripture that says, you know, I don't care much for Paul, but he said some good things because he got it from James. He said basically that if you don't take care of your family, you're worse than an infidel. Use the word infidel. Interesting. You know, the Islamic people actually got that from the early Christians. Did you know that? The word infidel? Yeah. But anyway. So he said, if you don't take care of your family, you're worse than an infidel. So our nation doesn't take care of the American people, its family. They give our sustenance to everybody else in the world. They allow strangers into our land and then do not require them to abide by our customs, which people forget. They say, oh, it says if you have the adversaries on the left will say, you Christians, you say you're Christians, but you don't want to bring people here and take care of them. It says love your neighbor, you know, take. They always forget the part where it says when they come into your land, they have to abide by your customs. They don't want to talk about that. That's the other part of it. And even Christians forget it. Prep, pray, stay out of the way as best you can. But be prepared to defend yourselves. They're coming.